From Babylon to Zion, my chains are looser in my mind. But out here, the jakes will shoot you. The judges judge for hire, the juries are straight liars. Just to see Israel fried up. They got our phones tapped and wired up. The police got you stuck. No one desires us. This law requires us to buy this man's trust. Pay to get salvation. Who you playing? But I pulled your card. I seen your stars. They false lights. My spirit spit lyrics so cold you frostbite. And that's the attitude from your murderous plight. From your rapers every night. And young boys shot down in the street in they mama's sight. Your overseers call this the good life. Like the hood's right. Rep Zion, that's right. Y'all's way, that's life. The ships of Tarshish, the glory of Lebanon will offload to YAH'S land. That's what we stepping on. The next plane will miss the Pentagon. The bees is dying, Florida is drying. Look like death coming to Babylon. The nation about to be born. A pure language giving the call on the name of YAH. All people will serve the sun, the black supremacist. No hippie on the stick, looking like Dennis the Menace. The demon is finished. When the wicked fall, the meek increase. Israel is free. Rejoice in the death of the beast. The resurrection of YAH'S people. All your children will be righteous. Walking in YAH'S likeness. Mirth and happiness. All glory in the land that YAH is blessed. See the truth manifest in YAH'S elect.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, giving all praise and honor to the Holy One of Israel, to the Creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is there and is, by saying hallelujah. Praise the mighty Yah. Yah is righteous, Yah is holy, and let Yahweh be magnified. Once again, the Creator has allowed us to come before you another day, another night, bringing to you his great, holy, and exalted words, even the words of truth. My name is Mowreh IshYAH YIsraEL of the House of Israel, located right here in Cincinnati, Ohio, 1907 Vine Street, bringing to you nothing but the truth. And yes, it is true. All we're going to do is tell you the truth. For Yah ordained me to tell you the truth. And this is what I'm going to do. And who is this Yah? Yah is the creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is therein is, Yah is the Elohim of our fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzhak, and YIsraEL, whom you may know as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yah is our king, he's our judge, he's our lawgiver, and Yah is our only savior, and not just of Israel. Yah is the savior of the world. And I praise the mighty Yah once again for blessing us to be able to come before you and bring to you his great, holy, and exalted words. Last night we started on our series entitled, let me show you what we're speaking about. In the book of Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter. And this series is entitled, How Yahweh Will Try and Take His People, a nation, from the midst of another nation. And the first thing we showed you that Yahweh will do is by temptations. In other words, Yahweh will test the various inhabitants, even his people, before he redeemed them, before he delivered them. They will undertake great tests. And then afterwards, Yahweh will test them again, as he did in the wilderness. But there's 7 different things Yahweh said he would do. And let's read these 7 things so you will know, so you can write them down and see exactly how important these things are. In the book of Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, the 32nd verse. And let's see if you even asking these things. It says, for ask now. Now, ask yourself, have you asked these things? Have you searched these things out? For ask now of the days that are past, which were before you, since the day that Elohim created man upon the earth, and ask from the one side of heaven to the other, whether there has been any such thing as this great thing is, because this was a great thing. And he hadn't even told you what it was yet. Or has been heard like it. Have there ever been a great thing like this? And have you heard a great thing like this? And what is Yahweh talking about? Watch what he says. 33rd verse. Did ever a people hear the voice of Elohim speaking out of the midst of fire, as you have heard and lived? Yeah, what nation, what people, what religious body, religious group? They'll show you stuff in the clouds. Look at that face. Or they'll show you something in the water or the stars. Look at that cow. But have they ever heard the voice of Elohim? Have anybody ever said that? What nation? What about the great nations of antiquity, like Babylon and Ethiopia, Egypt? No, they hadn't heard the voice of Elohim, but our people did. Then it says, or has Elohim tried, meaning tested, to go and take him a nation from the midst of another nation? No wonder our people don't believe Yahweh is going to rescue us. No wonder they don't believe that we will be redeemed. Since they never heard such a thing like this. Seen a thing like this in the earth, period, with the one exception, the children of Israel. Take him a nation from the midst of another nation, by temptations, 1, by signs, number 2, by wonders, number 3, by war, number 4, by a mighty hand, number 5, by a stretched out arm, number 6, and by great terrors, number 7, according to all that Yahweh your Elohim did for you in Egypt before your eyes. Have you heard such a thing, seen such a thing? These things are great things that Yahweh did in the earth and put them as record. But he didn't just put these as a record of temptation. Yahweh will put this as a record, as a sign. As a sign. Just like he said, the Sabbath is a sign between you and I, that he hath sanctified us and made a covenant with us, even an everlasting covenant. This is a sign. And all through the scriptures, Yahweh will have signs to let you know how he deals with his people. And we dealt with temptations last night. And what is a temptation? A temptation is a particular test that Yahweh would do. To bring about some great thing in the earth. And our people are being tested all the time, but they look at these tests as just regular, average, random occurrences. Oh, this happened to everybody. This happened all the time. This don't mean nothing. This don't mean that. This don't. Well, little do our people know, a lot of these things mean a great thing, a great deal. Let me show you how you know there's meaning behind most things that you will experience. Watch this in the book of Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter. Here we have a bunch of people around on the internet that obviously, which is not surprising, don't know Yahweh, don't have a relationship with Yahweh. You know you don't have a relationship with Yahweh if you don't know him. And some of the things that our people spew out lets you know that you do not know Yahweh. I had a brother call me a little distraught about the death of Kobe Bryant. And he said people all over the internet was just welling on him. He was into witchcraft. Well, how you know that? Because you done heard that on the internet? So he in witchcraft because you read it on the internet. Or he was part of the Illuminati. Or he was some type of sacrifice that had to be made. Just a bunch of conspiracies. And our people will take that as the truth. But at the end of the day, many of our people talked about him like a dog. And you know you don't have a relationship with the Most High if you talk about even the death of the wicked. Yahweh said he has no pleasure in the death of the wicked. So if Yahweh don't have no pleasure in the death of the wicked, why would you have pleasure in the death of anybody when Yahweh don't even have pleasure in it? So you can gloat and you can talk about people, but all you're doing is being judged. Whether your works are good or evil. But why do I bring that up? Because you don't think that was a sign? You don't think when people die, that's a sign? You don't think when people are born, that's a sign? Watch what it says in the book of Ecclesiastes, just to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that these are signs. Watch what this says. The truth is you just don't know what the sign is. So because you don't know, you will dismiss the very signs that Yahweh give us. Watch what it says. In the book of Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, the 1st verse, to everything there is a season. To everything. And a time to every purpose under heaven. And if you didn't understand those just few little words, which are self-explanatory, that everything, there's a season. Until every time. Or to a time, there's a purpose under heaven. And Yahweh wanted to make sure you understood what he was saying. So what did he say after that in the 2nd verse? A time to be born and a time to die. Which lets you know there's purpose behind this time. And it's for you to search what that purpose is. Because there's a time to every purpose. So when a man dies, especially someone that's known all over the world, you don't think that has purpose, relevance? Well, it does. But what I want to show you, what I want you to see, since there's a time to every purpose under heaven, I want you to see some of the very signs of Yahweh. And why? Because this is one of the things, the second thing that Yahweh said he would do to try and to take a nation from the midst of another nation. And that only happened to one people, and one people only, and that's Israel. And Yahweh told you to ask this thing and see if such a thing has even happened. And here it is, the two greatest things that happened to our people don't even know the dates of these two things. They don't even know the time of these two things, and really don't even know the purpose of these two things. And what were those two things? Yahweh said, the first thing, have anybody ever heard the voice of Elohim speaking out of a midst of a fire, out of heaven, and lived? And has he tried and took another nation from the midst of another nation by 7 different things? And the second is a sign. Watch this. Going back to Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, where we started. Deuteronomy 4. watch what Yahweh said about this time, this sign. Starting at the 5th verse. Behold, I've taught you statutes and judgments, even as Yahweh my Elohim commanded me, that you should do so in the land where you go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what nation is there so great, who has Elohim so nigh to them, as Yahweh our Elohim is in all things that we call upon him for? Because if you had true wisdom, if you had true understanding, you wouldn't talk about the death of no wicked. Period. Because Yahweh don't have pleasure in the death of the wicked. Watch what this says. And what nation is there so great, that has statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law, which I set before you this day? See how Yahweh separate his people? Only take heed to yourself and keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things your eyes have seen, and lest they depart from your heart all the days of your life. But teach them to your sons and your sons' sons. And watch this 10th verse. I want you to hear this clearly. Watch what Yahweh said. He said, especially the day that you stood before Yahweh your Elohim in Horeb, when Yahweh said to me, gather me the people together, and I will make them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me all the days that they shall live upon the earth, and that they may teach their children. And you came near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire unto the midst of heaven, with darkness and clouds and thick darkness. And Yahweh spoke unto you out of the midst of the fire. You heard the voice of the words, but saw no likeness. Only you heard a voice. And he declared unto you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform, even 10 commandments. And he wrote them upon 2 tables of stones. Now you see what Yahweh did? At a particular specific time, for a particular specific purpose, at a particular specific season, Yahweh spoke out of heaven. And our people heard his voice. And he spoke to them out of the midst of the fire when that mountain was quaking. Even the 10 commandments. And then not only he did that, he wrote the 10 commandments with his own finger, with the finger of Elohim, and gave his servant Moses 2 tablets of stones. Now ask yourself, you don't think that was a sign? Did not Yahweh say he will try and take his people by temptations and now by signs? And yes, it was a sign when Moses threw his rod on the ground. It was a sign when he turned the blood, the river, into blood. the water into blood. It was a sign when Yahweh told Moses to put his hand in his bosom, and it came out leopards of snow. And then he returned it back into his bosom, and it returned right back to his other flesh, which let you know Moses was a black man. Because the word leprous means white. These are signs. And these are the very signs that Yahweh said he would do. But what greater sign can you have than Yahweh doing something that he ain't did with nobody else? And that is to speak his words out of heaven, and a whole nation of people hearing the voice of Elohim. Little do people know, this is why the Sabbath day became a sign. Watch this in the book of Exodus 31. In the book of Exodus 31, starting at the 12th verse. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak you also to the children of Israel, saying, Truly my Sabbaths you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am Yahweh that does sanctify you. You shall keep the Sabbath therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that defiles it shall surely be put to death. For whoever does any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days may work be done, but in the seventh is the Sabbath of rest, holy to Yahweh. Whoever does any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. Therefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant. It is a sign. So don't let these people on the internet, YouTube and Facebook and Blog Talk and Ustream and other places telling you you can't keep the Sabbath day. We keep the Sabbath day every week. Telling you that you don't have to keep the law. We keep the law every day. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days Yahweh made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. And watch what it says. And he gave to Moshe, when he had made an end of speaking with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone, written with the finger of Elohim. But little do people know, they don't know when this was, when this is. Not realizing this is one of the greatest signs in the scriptures. Yahweh speaking to his people out of heaven. But when was this? Well, if you want to know when this was, let me show you. In the book of Exodus 19. And why is it important to know? Because Yahweh say, especially, let's read that again so you can understand what this is saying in the Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter. I want you to see this one more time. the 9th and 10th verse. Only take heed to yourself and keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things which your eyes have seen, lest they depart from your heart all the days of your life. In other words, if your soul is diligent in this thing, you will do this. Because if you don't do this, you will forget it. But teach them to your sons and your sons' sons. And how can you teach it when you don't even know? See, he's telling you to teach these statutes and judgments, but especially the day that you stood before Yahweh your Elohim in Horeb. And when was that? Since this was a sign, and I'm going to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, it is and was and will be a sign that Yahweh has used to deliver, rescue his servants, as he has said. And watch this. Exodus 19. In the book of Exodus 19, I want you to see this great sign and when this was. In the book of Exodus 19, the very first verse, it says, in the 3rd month, when the children of Israel had gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai. And why did it just say the 3rd month? Well, because little do people know in Hebrew, this will be the new month day of the 3rd month. This is the day of the new month. That same day in the 3rd month, they came in the wilderness of Sinai. This was the day of the new month. And this was the 3rd month after they had came out of Egypt. But watch what it says, which lets you know there was a 1st month and there was a 2nd month. But this is the 3rd month. For they had departed from Rephidim and come to the desert of Sinai and pitched in the wilderness. And there Israel camped before the mount. And Moshe went up to Elohim, and Yahweh called to him out of the mount, saying, thus shall you say to the house of Yaakov, and tell the children of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle wings and brought you to myself. You've seen this thing, because it was a sign. Now, therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure to me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak to the children of Israel. And Moshe came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before their faces all these words which Yahweh commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, all that Yahweh has spoken we will do. And Moshe returned the words of the people to Yahweh. And Yahweh said to Moshe, behold, I come to you in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with you, and believe you forever. And Moshe told the words of the people to Yahweh. And watch what the Creator let him know. And Yahweh said to Moshe, go to the people, sanctify them today. And what is today? Today is the day of the new month. Watch what it says. And tomorrow. What's tomorrow? At this time, not today, but tomorrow at that time. Well, that was the first day of the month. And then watch what it says. And let them wash their clothes and be ready against the 3rd day. For the 3rd day, Yahweh will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai. And what was the third day of that month? The third day of the very first month of the first year was the second day of the month. So you got the new day of the new month, you got the first day of the month, and you got the second day of the month, and the second day of this month was on the third day. And let me show you what I'm telling you is the truth. The proof beyond a shadow of a doubt, that is the truth. Because watch this. Speaking of this same thing that the children of Israel was doing in Exodus 24, they was at Mount Sinai, where Yahweh came down on Mount Sinai, and they heard his voice from heaven. Watch what it says, Exodus 24. And we're speaking about signs. We dealt with temptations, but now we're talking about signs. And you're going to see how important signs really are and how Yahweh will test and try and deliver as a result of these signs. In the book of Exodus 24, and we're going to start reading the 12th verse. And Yahweh said to Moshe, come up to me into the mount and be there. Because what mount? What mount is he talking about? Mount Sinai. And I will give you tables of stones. And what was on the tables of stones? The 10 Commandments and the law and commandments which I have written. Yahweh wrote this, that you may teach them. And Moshe rose up, and his minister Yehoshua, and Moses went up into the mount of Elohim. And he said to the elders, stay you here for us until we come again to you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. If any man has any matters to do, let him come to them. And Moshe went up into the mount, and a cloud covered the mount. And the glory of Yahweh stayed upon Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And the 7th day he called to Moses out of the midst of the cloud. Here it is. The cloud was on Mount Sinai 6 days. But then he called out to Moses on the 7th day and told Moses to come into the midst of that cloud. What month was this in? We already read it was in the 3rd month. Yahweh said, be ready against the 3rd day. And that was the 2nd day of the 3rd month. So the 4th day of that month, or the 4th day of the week, had to be the 3rd day that month. The 5th, the 4th. The 6th, the 5th. And that 7th day where he called out to Moses was the 6th day of the very 3rd month. And I know it's hard to visualize this, even though Yahweh is telling you what month it is. He told you to be ready today. Get ready tomorrow. And I'm coming to you the 3rd day. So we know we got 3 days in this 3rd month. And since they came to Mount Sinai in the very day of this third month, which is the day of the new month, the day of the new month, the first day of the month, and the second day of the month. Those are 3 days. And since Yahweh called unto Moses from the midst of the cloud, told him to come in on the Sabbath day. The seventh day. 4 days later. And since he came down on the third day, which was the second day of that third month, that would make the Sabbath day the sixth day of that month. The sixth day of the third month. And why is that so important to know? And I can show you from the first month to the second month to the third month how I'm telling you the truth. See, most of you all have been brainwashed to think that Yahweh don't have a calendar. And he does. How we got talking about months and days and weeks and years, and you don't think Yahweh got a calendar? But we're talking about months, days, and years. What you think a calendar is? And then many of our people go by the Jewish calendar, and they know the Jewish calendar is wrong because Yahweh didn't talk to no Jewish person, period. The only people he ever gave his word to is Israel. So they don't know the signs of Yahweh. And we're talking about signs today. But if it's true what I'm telling you, that in the third month, as the scriptures are saying, it's at the third month, on the third day, which is the second day of the month, 4 days later, Yahweh called to Moses to come into that cloud on the seventh day, which would have made the sixth day of the month. Which means this, since every Sabbath is apart, the third month, if the sixth was the very first Sabbath of that third month, that means the 13th was the next Sabbath. The 20th was the next Sabbath. And the 27th, or the 6th, the first Sabbath, the 13th, the second Sabbath, the 20th, the third Sabbath, and the 27th is the fourth Sabbath of that third month. And that's a great sign if you knew the calendar of Yahweh. These are the Sabbaths of the third month in the very first year. This is when Yahweh not only spoke his words out of heaven, even the 10 Commandments, but this is when he called Moses in to write the 10 Commandments and handed them to Moses on 2 tables of stones. And how long was Moses there? In the 18th verse. And Moses went into the midst of the cloud and got him up into the mount. And Moses was in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. And here it is. This is what we did as a sign. Fasted 40 days and 40 nights. Because that's what Yahweh will do for signs. And we know every time there's a purpose. And this time was purposed. But not just this time. Because this was in the first year of the third month. And the Sabbaths of this month just happened to be the 6th day of the month, the 13th day of the month, the 20th day of the month, and the 27th day of the month. Now, is there any purpose and relevance to that? Sure it is, because to every time there's a purpose. And let me show you. Watch this. That was the first year. But what about the 3rd year? Watch this in the book of Genesis. I want you to see this. And there's only one way you can get anything that I'm telling you in the scriptures. The way you're able to see all this is that you got to have 12 months every year and 30 days every month from the first year throughout the 7 years. And you got to have 7 Sabbaths of years. Because if you have that, and our people don't, but if you have that, then all you got to do is have your 30 days a month, 12 months a year, 7 Sabbaths a year, all beginning and starting with Yahweh say this was supposed to start, which is on the 4th day of the very first week. Every date that I'm giving you, every time that was purpose and relevance in the scriptures, you will actually see. You will actually just see the date of these great things. You've seen when Yahweh spoke out of heaven. Now you know what day it was. Somebody asked you, when did Yahweh speak out of heaven? 3rd month. What day of the week was it? The 3rd day. What was the actual date? The 2nd day of the 3rd month. What year was it? The 1st year that we came out of Egypt. 3 months later. See, it's easy for me to say. And why? Because this was Yahweh showed me. Because it's only 12 months in a year. It's only 7 different years. And 30 days a month. All beginning on the 4th day of the week of the very first week of creation. But watch this in the book of Genesis 40. Another sign. That sign was about Yahweh speaking out of heaven to his people. The people that he delivered from Egypt. The same people he took a nation from the midst of another nation by temptations and by signs. And heard the voice of Elohim speaking out of heaven out of the midst of the fire. And lived. In the book of Genesis 40. And I'm going to get right to this sign. Verse 40 and 8. And they said to him, we have dreamed a dream, talking about yourself, and there's no interpreter of it. And yourself said to them, do not interpretations belong to Elohim? Tell me them, I pray you, because Yahweh will show him. Because why? It was a sign. And the chief butler told his dream to Yosef and said to him, in my dream, behold, a vine was before me. And in the vine were 3 branches. And it was as though it budded and her blossom shot forth. And the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took these grapes, pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Yosef said to him, what's the interpretation of this dream? This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Now, how many days did Yahweh tell us to prepare for him? Did not he say today, tomorrow, and be ready against the 3rd day? Did not Yahweh say that? Did not Yahweh do this in the 3rd month? Watch what it says. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up your head, restore you to your place, and you shall deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand, after the former manner when you were his butler. But think on me when it shall be well with you, and show kindness, and I pray you unto me, and make mention of me to Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also have I done nothing that they should put me in a dungeon. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said to Yosef, I also was in a dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head, and in the uppermost baskets there was of all manner of baked goods for Pharaoh, and the birds did eat them out of the basket on my head. And Yosef answered and said, this is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Here we go. 3 days again. Now, do you understand this is a sign? Now do you understand when Yahweh spoke out of heaven on the 3rd day, it was a sign? Do you understand in that 3rd month, the Sabbaths of that month just so happened to be the 6th, 13th, 20th, and 27th day of that month? And the Sabbath is a sign between Yahweh and his people. But watch this. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up your head from off you, and shall hang you on a tree, and the birds shall eat your flesh from off you. And it came to pass, the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants. And he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief butler to his butlership again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand, just like Joseph said, on the 3rd day. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgot him. And watch what it says in Genesis 41:1, because this is what I want you to see. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years. Now, when you're at the end of something, and this says the end of 2 complete years. So what do you have after 2? 3? In other words, it don't take a rocket scientist to know you're at the end of 2 full years. That means you're at the 3rd year. And what happened in this 3rd year that Yahweh wants us to know? That Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. And why is it telling us about the 3rd year? Because little do people know, and I know you don't know this, that the 3rd year of Yahweh's Sabbath of years, and all Yahweh have is 7 different years. But the 3rd year of Yahweh's Sabbath of years actually begin on the 3rd day. Now, how do I know this? Well, all you got to do is follow the scriptures. How many months in a year? 12. That's it. There is no 11 months or 10 months in a year. And it's definitely not no 13 months. That's not in the scriptures at all. Yahweh named every month in the scriptures, and it's only 12. It's only 30 days in a month. not 29 and a half, not 29, not 31, not 28. All the scriptures talk about is 30 days. And when you start this when Yahweh, or count this when Yahweh say count it, on the very fourth day of the week, 30 days a month, 12 months a year, in the third year, it would actually begin the very new month day of the third year is on the third day of the week. Now here it is. Yahweh spoke out of heaven on the third day of the week. Now, here it is. Yahweh give a sign of 3 vines with grapes on them, 3 baskets with bread in them, and telling them that on the third day, when you celebrate Pharaoh's birthday, you're going to be pouring wine to him, and somebody going to be hung on this day. And this happened after 2 full years, which means it was the third year. This third year, this third day, you'll see something real great about this third year and this third day. Watch this in the book of Deuteronomy 26. Because all this is for signs, as Yahweh said, temptations, signs, wonders, war. And we're going to bring every last single one of them to you. Watch this in Deuteronomy 26. In the book of Deuteronomy 26, watch what it says. The 12th verse. When you have made an end of tithing, all the tithes of your increase the third year. And that's what we're talking about, the third year. That's what Yosef was talking about, the third year, which begins on the third day. Watch this. Which is the year of tithing, and had given it to the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, the widow, that they may eat within your gates and be filled. Then you shall say before Yahweh your Elohim, I brought away the hollow things out of my house, and has also given them to the Levite, to the stranger, to the fatherless, to the widow, according to all your commandments which you have commanded me. I have not transgressed your commandments, neither have I forgotten them. And ask yourself, have you forgotten Yahweh's commandments since you've been in captivity? Have you transgressed Yahweh's commandments by keeping the hollow things in your house? And what is the hollow things? The word hollow just means separated thing. And what did Yahweh separate? What are you supposed to separate as hollow? To your tithes, your tenth. But it's still in your house. Not only is it in your house, it's in your belly, it's in your wine, it's in your food, it's in your drugs, it's in your clothes, it's in your shoes, it's in everything you want to spend Yahweh's tenth on. Because the tenth don't even belong to you. It belongs to Yahweh. But you don't care. So you take the tenth and do whatever you want to do with it. When this is what Yahweh said the tenth is for. And I'm going to read it again. Especially to those who get mad at me for talking about the tenth. Watch what it says. When you have made an end of tithing, all the tithes of your increase in the third year. And when do you supposed to do this? Matter of fact, we in the third year as we speak. But the end of your tithing is when you bring all your fruits in, all your vegetables in, all your produce in, and has given it to the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, the widow, that they may eat within your gates and be filled. And you're not trying to feed nobody. You're not trying to be a part of the solution to make sure the widow, the fatherless, the stranger, the Levite, or any of the poor be fed. But that's your lack of blessings. But why is this important? Because every time has a purpose. Every time. And here it is, the year of tithing, at the end of the year, which is the 7th month. This 3rd year, little do people know that this 7th month of the 3rd year, when do you think it began? When do you think the 3rd day is in that month? And when do you think the Sabbaths are in that month? Well, let me show you something. Now, and let me say this before I even show you something. That all you got to do to prove me wrong, to see if I'm telling you the truth, either or, all you got to do is write down 12 months a year, 30 days a month, all beginning on the 4th day of the week, starting that first year, the first week of creation, and see if I'm telling you the truth. See if these scriptures will come alive to you. And then when you get to that 3rd year, look and see when the year of tithing is, when they brought all the increase in that 7th month. And let me tell you what the Sabbath is. In the 7th month, in the 3rd year, yes, the same that we've been reading. We've been telling you. The 6th, the 13th, the 20th, and the 27th. The same Sabbaths as in the book of Exodus 19, when Yahweh spoke his word, even his covenant, even the 10 commandments out of heaven. The same time, the same year that Joseph had his dreams. The Sabbaths, the 6th, 13th, 20th, and 27th of that month. Why? This is a sign. Look, and if you want to get our books, we got them. We got them so you can prove us right or wrong. And I may add, that was the 1st year. This was the 3rd year. Now, one thing you can see as I'm reading, if you don't understand nothing else, in Exodus 19, what day did Yahweh say be ready against? The 3rd day. It don't take a rocket scientist to see in the book of Genesis, the 40th chapter and the 41st chapter, what day did it tell them all this was going to happen? On the 3rd day. The branches was 3 days. The baskets, 3 baskets was 3 days. Because this was, is, and will be a sign to Yahweh's people. And Yahweh said, this is how he deal with his people, by signs. It happened in the 1st year. It happened in the 3rd year. But it also happened in the 4th year. And watch this. In the book of 2nd Chronicles. I want you to see this. 2nd Chronicles. And I can understand why all these dates will coincide with one another. This is the day that Yahweh spoke out of heaven. And he said, don't forget this day. And teach this day to your children. So they won't forget it. And you weren't going to forget it if you following the word of Yahweh. You won't forget it. And that's what you're doing right now with me. Following the word of Yahweh. Watch this. In the book of 2nd Chronicles, the 3rd chapter. Since we're talking about 3. And since we're talking about signs. In the book of 2nd Chronicles, the 3rd chapter, the very first verse. Let's see what happened then. We see the year tithing. We see when Yahweh spoke out of heaven. But watch this great thing. Because that's what Yahweh said. Ask and see how they even heard or it's been said. Such as this great thing is. Watch this. 2nd Chronicles 3:1. Then Solomon began to build the house of Yahweh at Jerusalem in Mount Moriah, where Yahweh appeared to David his father in a place that David had prepared in the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. And he began to build in the 2nd day of the 2nd month, in the 4th year of his reign. Is this a sign? What did he build? The temple of Yahweh. When Yahweh came down on Mount Sinai to speak to the people, it was on the 3rd day. But as I told you before, it was the 2nd day of the month. In the 7th month of the 3rd year, when we brought all our tithes in. Little do people know. The first day of that month was the day of the new month. The 2nd day of that 7th month was the first day of the month. And the 3rd day was the 2nd day of the month, which automatically made the Sabbaths of that 7th month the 6th, 13th, 20th, and 27th day of the month. And here we go again. The 2nd day. And really this is the 2nd of the 2nd month. But this was the 4th year. And what is that telling us? Well, in this 2nd month of this 4th year, once again, we see the 2nd. And why? Because that's when Yahweh will work his signs. And this was a great sign because this sign represented Yahweh's name. Not only right here, go to the book of 1 Kings, the 6th chapter, so you can see this. 1 Kings, the 6th chapter. So we can spell it out even clearly. First Kings, the 6th chapter. The very first verse. And it came to pass in the 480th year after the children of Israel had come out of the land of Egypt. And if you don't know when the 480th year is, it'll let you know. In the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month Ziv, which is the 2nd month, that he began to build the house of Yahweh. And this 2nd of the month, once again, was the 3rd day of the week. The Sabbath of this 4th year of the 2nd month was the 6th of the month, the 13th of the month, the 20th of the month, and the 27th of the month. Now, how do I know that? Since the scriptures didn't say it, how do I know that? Well, the scriptures did say that. Because the scriptures said it's only 12 months in every year. The scriptures say it's only 30 days in every month. The scripture says that there's only 7 different years. And he called it the Sabbath of years. The scripture says all your signs, seasons, days, and years occurred on the 4th day of the week. And 30 days later, 12 months later, in the 4th year, in the 2nd month, you will see the very Sabbaths that I'm telling you. When Solomon built the temple of Yahweh, when he started building it, he started building the temple of Yahweh the very same day that Yahweh spoke his word, his covenant, out of heaven. Because Yahweh never wanted his people to forget that sign, especially that day. So Yahweh engraved it in all the other great monuments and great things in the earth. And what greater thing can you have than Yahweh speaking out of heaven? What greater thing can you have that Yahweh built his temple at the same time? And what great thing can you have in feeding the poor? Even though the mass majority of our people only feed themselves. They refuse to take the 10th out. And Yahweh knew they was going to refuse to take the 10th out. So you know what Yahweh said? You're supposed to give tithes and offerings. Where's your offerings, people? If you won't give a tithe, then where is your offering? You won't even do that. And then you want to know why we so cursed. And then you ask yourself, what have I done? What is my sin? You don't even know. You don't even want to know. The signs of Yahweh. This is what Yahweh said he would do. By temptations and by signs. And here, all you got to do is what I'm telling you, or what the scriptures are saying. And everything that I'm telling you, you will see that I'm telling you the truth. Even in the 5th year, in the book of Deuteronomy, the 1st chapter, watch this. Here it is. We just talked about the 1st year, the 3rd year, the 4th year. Now we're talking about the 5th year. In the book of Deuteronomy, the 1st chapter, Yahweh only got 7 different years. And he said after the 7th year, you're supposed to number 7 Sabbaths a year. Because it's only 7 different years. So after the 7, you go back to the 1st year. and start counting over. This is my second Sabbath of years. Even all the way to 49 years, which is the seventh Sabbath of years. And then after that, you have a Jubilee, which is the 50th year. But what Israelite is doing that? And what Israelite have a calendar that will coincide with the scriptures itself? Deuteronomy, the 1st chapter. And why is this even relevant? Because we're talking about signs. And why is this relevant to signs? Because to every time there's a purpose. And Yahweh has purposed. As a sign, he said, the Sabbath is a sign between you and I, that I've sanctified you. I've separated you from all the people on the face of the earth. And I'm showing you the Sabbaths of the first year in the 3rd month. The Sabbaths of the 3rd year in the 7th month. The Sabbaths of the 4th year in the 2nd month. And now, what about the Sabbaths in the 5th year? In the book of Deuteronomy, the 1st chapter. And I'm going to show you which month that's in. Starting at the very first verse. These are the words which Moshe spoke to all Israel on this side of Jordan in the wilderness, in the plain over against the Red Sea, between Paran and Tophel, Laban and Hazeroth, Dizahab. There are 11 days' journey from Horeb by the way of Mount Seir to Kadesh Barnea. And it came to pass in the 40th year. Well, there's only 7 different years. And if that's true, you got 7 years. You got 14 years, that's the 2nd. You got 21 years, that's the 3rd. You got 28 years, that's the 4th. You got 35 years, that's the 5th. And here it is. And it came to pass in the 40th year, which is the order of 5. Because the 6th year wouldn't start until the 42nd year. So we're still in the 5th year. 6 times 7 is 42. But when we're in the 40th year, that's the 5th year. And watch what it says. And it came to pass in the 40th year, in the 11th month, on the first day of the month, that Moshe spoke to the children of Israel according to all that Yahweh had given him in commandment unto them. After he had slain Sihon, king of the Amorites, which dwelt in Heshbon, and Og, the king of Bashan, which dwelt in Ashtaroth, in Edrei, on this side of Jordan, in the land of Moab, began Moshe to declare this law, saying, Yahweh our Elohim spoke to us in Horeb, saying, you have dwelt long enough in the mount. Turn you, take your journey, go to the mountain of the Amorites, to all the places near thereunto, in the plain, in the hills, in the vale, in the south, by the seaside, to the land of the Canaanites, to Lebanon, the great river, the river Euphrates. And behold, I've set the land before you. Go in and possess the land, which Yahweh swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give to them and to their seed after them. So when Yahweh commissioned Moses to go ahead and take their journey from this mountain, get out this wilderness, and go to the land that I promised you, It was in the 40th year and 11th month. And the 40th year coincides with the 5th year of Yah's Sabbath of years. But little do people know, this is a sign. And what is the sign? You will know the sign of this 11th month, of this 5th year, if you did what Yahweh said. All you got to do is write it down for yourself. 12 months every year. 30 days every month. Beginning at the 4th day of the week, which is the first week of creation. And it's only 7 Sabbaths of years. And in this 5th year, the 11th month, guess what the Sabbaths are? The 6th, the 13th, the 20th, the 27th. The same exact time when Yahweh spoke out of heaven, the very first time, to his people and gave them the 10 commandments. The same time when our people went to give their tithes in the name of Yahweh in the 7th month, in the 3rd year of that month. The same time when Solomon built the temple to Yahweh in the 4th year, in the 2nd month. This same time, in the 5th year of the 11th month, when Yahweh told Moses, you dwell long enough in this mountain. Go get that land. Go get that promised land. The land that floweth with milk and honey. And you know they had to go do this. This was the 40th year of the 11th month. They were only supposed to stay in the wilderness for 40 years. And if this the 40th year of the 11th month, you only got 1 month left. And that's the 12th month. And guess what? Moses died in the 40th year because Moses never made it to the land. So he would have had to die by the 12th month. And how do I know that? Because they mourned for Moses 30 days. And Yahweh said they was going to be in that wilderness 40 years. So in this 11th month, it was surely time for them to go. And Joshua, who was handpicked by Yahweh, took over in the 1st month of the very next year. And one more scripture I want you to see is in the book of Ezra, the 7th chapter. We're talking about signs. I know it's hard for you to see because you never seen a calendar of truth. You never seen that. But if you want one, all you got to do is call us. And we'll make sure you have it. You never seen one that goes strictly by the scriptures. Because Yahweh has his own calendar. And it's a sign to our people. Why do you think Yahweh told Moses, this month shall be the beginning of months. It shall be the 1st month of the year to you. That would sound pretty dumb to Moses that even Yahweh would say something like that. And when Moses, all he got to do is look up in the sky if he went by the moon. Yahweh, I know when the 1st month of the year is. It's the moon. It's the crescent. I can look up in the sky. Everybody doing that. Everybody know that. mass majority of the nations going by the moon, the sun, and the stars. That's easy. But no, Yahweh don't go by everybody else. Yahweh don't have to go by no moon, sun, and stars. Yahweh already know the various dates and times. He gave them to Moses. But Moses didn't know. Just like you don't. But Yahweh do. And we're showing you now. This is a sign. And watch this in the book of Ezra, the 7th chapter. Here it is. When our people was in Babylon, Yahweh said they will be there 70 years. And why? Because that was a sign. And what is 70 years? Well, those 70 years was 7 or 10 Sabbath years. 10 times 7 is 70. And Yahweh said, since you didn't allow the land to rest in this Sabbath of years, it's going to rest 10 Sabbaths of years while it lie desolate. Now we find ourselves
90 seconds.
in captivity for 400 years. Well, how many Sabbaths of years you think that is? That don't take a rocket scientist to know what that is. And watch this. Ezra, the 7th chapter.
60 seconds.
The very first verse. Well, I'm going to go right to well, we're going to start at the first verse. Now, after these things, in the reign of Artaxerxes, king of Persia, Ezra the son of Sariah, the son of Azariah, the son of Hilkiah, the son of Shallum, the son of Zadok, the son of Ahitub, the son of Amariah, the son of Azariah, the son of Moriah, the son of Zechariah, or Zerahiah, the son of Uzi, the son of Bukai, the son of Abishua, the son of Phinehas, the son of Eleazar,
10
the
seconds.
son of Aaron, the chief priest. This Ezra went out from Babylon, and he was a ready scribe in the law of Moshe, which Yahweh Elohim of Israel has given. And the king granted him all his requests, according to the hand of Yahweh his Elohim upon him. And there went up some of the children of Israel, the priests, the Levites, singers, porters, Nethinims, to Jerusalem in the 7th year of Artaxerxes the king. And he came to Jerusalem in the 5th month, which was in the 7th year of the king. For upon the first day of the 1st month began he to go up from Babylon. And on the first day of the 5th month came he to Jerusalem, according to the good hand of his Elohim upon him. For Ezra had prepared his heart to seek the law of Yahweh, to do it, and to teach in Israel statutes and judgments. That's what Ezra consecrated himself to do. That's what he circumcised his heart to do. Yahweh says, sanctify yourself unto me. And that's what Ezra did. And as a result of doing that, everything that Ezra asked the king gave him all his requests. But then Ezra will ask Yahweh something at the time that he was doing all this. And we're going to know what that is. And you'll find this in the book of Ezra, the 8th chapter, the last scripture. And watch what it says in the book of Ezra, the 8th chapter. And we're going to start reading at the 15th verse. And I gathered them together to the river that runs to Ahava. There stayed we in tents 3 days. Here go these 3 days again. And I viewed the people and the priests, and found there none of the sons of Levi. Then I sent Eleazar for Ariel, Shemaiah for Elnathan, for Yarib, for Elnathan, for Natan, and for Zechariah, and for Meshullam, chief men, also for Arib, and for Elnathan, men of understanding. And I sent with them with commandment to Edu, the chief at the place Casiphia. And I told them what they should say to Edu and to his brethren to the Nethinims at the place of Casiphia, that they should bring to us ministers for the house of our Elohim. And by the good hand of our Elohim upon us, they brought us a man of understanding of the sons of Mali, the son of Levi, the son of Israel, and Sherebiah with his sons and his brethren, 18. And Hashabiah, and with him YIshaEH of the sons of Mowreh, his brethren and their sons, 20. Also of the Nethinims, whom David and the princes had appointed for the service of the Levites, 220 Nethinims. All of them were expressed by name. And this is the part that I want you to see. All that other stuff was fluff. But here go the main point. 21st verse. Then I proclaimed a fast there at the river of Ahava, that we might afflict ourselves before our Elohim, to seek of him a right way for us, and for our little ones, and for our substance. For I was ashamed to require the king a band of soldiers and horsemen to help us against the enemy in the way, because we had spoken to the king, saying, the hand of our Elohim is upon all them for good that seek him. But his power and his wrath is against all them that forsake him. So we fasted and sought our Elohim for this. And he was entreated of us. In other words, Yahweh heard them. And when did they do this? We just read in the 7th chapter of Ezra that they did this in the 7th year. And we just read in the book of Ezra, the 8th chapter, that they stayed in their tents 3 days. And why? Because on that 3rd day, they will fast at the river of Ahava. And in the 7th year, when do you think the Sabbaths were? See, Yahweh will do this for signs to let you know he is with you, that he has sanctified you. All the signs of Yahweh is for sanctification. What do you think the bow in the sky is for? It's for sanctification. What do you think circumcision is for? It's for sanctification. What do you think the 10 plagues of Egypt was for? Sanctification. And what do you think the word of Yahweh is for? It is to sanctify you, to separate you from all the other nations on the earth. And these are the signs that Yahweh wants you to know about. And of course, all you got to do is contact us. And we will show you more and show you how beyond a shadow of a doubt, we're telling you the truth. So until tomorrow, Yahweh love you, and so do I. Shalom.
And there was nobody after him. Can I get an amen? Can I get a hallelujah? We let everybody know that. And now what's another sign that the Gentiles say the people that believe in
For your holy Shabbat day.
Let me show you. Let's go to Exodus.
Exodus 31, 12 through 17. This is how you get down with the Israelite team. Praising Yahweh, Ya Elohim, on this holy convocation day. Thou shalt not do any work, nah. And if you're picking up sticks, then you will get hit. This is what you do after you roam in your home. Don't go out doing that work, you get stoned. And we telling our brothers and sisters, please listen to what the Most High says. Listen, that we must praise Him each and every day. But there's one day that's sanctified. Praise Yah. He gave it to us for a sign. And I'm telling you, I'll never leave it behind. Always keep it on my mind. And this is how we get refined. Each and every time the light shines. She shall keep, and anybody coming into my house better watch what they speak. Watch, I don't want nobody speaking out of turn. You came here to listen and learn. Watch what come out your mouth, don't let your soul get burned. Please just turn to the Most High. This is how we sanctify. He wants us to tell the children of Israel who were trapped in these gates of hell. Please just learn how to do well. Stop getting on your knees every Sunday, worship and B-double-A-L.
Also to the children of Israel.
That they must turn from these wicked ways that they do every Sabbath day. Matter of fact, the ones that turn that darkness into light, that think from sundown to sundown is when the Sabbath day go down. But they strictly confused in the land of confusion. It is Yahweh's giving us to our own delusions. And let our fears become before our faces. And that's why we worshiping in the wrong places. Synagogues of death and cemeteries teaching these things that get us quickly buried. Please Yahweh, come close and near. Please Yahweh, let them hear. This is how we know we sanctify. Where do you think you go when you die? All my brothers and sisters, why you look into the heavens when you cry? Do you think you are floating by the sky? Or going to the earth under the waters? Please tell me, my sons and daughters. It is Yahweh's Sabbath day. Thou shalt not do any work, no. Matter of fact, let me read the commandment. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shall I labor and do all the work, but the Sabbath day holy unto Yahweh. Thou shalt not do any work. Thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, man servant, maid servant, nor the ox, nor thy ass. Don't let this holy day pass. For in 6 days Yah made the heavens and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested on the Sabbath day. Wherefore Yahweh bless the Sabbath day to keep it holy. So remember the Sabbath day. It is a sign between me and thee. Thus saith Yah. Please, my people, hear what he gotta say. Praise Yah for the Sabbath day.
Sabbath ye shall keep.
For it is a sign.
Notice. The Almighty, just like JC had signs that's supposed to follow people that believe in Him. How many of y'all seen those signs? None of you have. None of them exist. Which means the book is a phone. But here, Yahweh has signs, and He said these people that believe in Him, though you would see that sign. And what sign? Read it. Can I get an amen? Can I get a hallelujah? Hallelujah. And we let everybody know that.